Welcome to Melting Plot, an actual play podcast that features a cast of characters randomly selected from popular fiction. Each season, our heroes attempt to survive an apocalyptic scenario to find out how their characters might handle themselves at the end of the world. If you're new to Melting Plot, I recommend that you start at the beginning of the season so you can experience the story the way the players do. This is Season 2, and Middle-earth is in peril. Frodo was unable to destroy the One Ring, and Sauron's army covered the world in hatred and darkness. What little hope remains is tied to the fate of a few heroes willing to resist. But will it be enough? So a couple of days after you apply the treatment to the little girl, she gets better. She has a full recovery. Jasmine, you stay on at the village a couple more days. And because of your help with the little girl, the drunk guy begins to pay your common room costs. There aren't many people here in this village, so you get to know many of them very closely. There are 3 total guardsmen here, Bargeman and his 2 allies. You know the innkeeper and his wife. You know Bruce very well, and they've come to know you as well. Raja is cleaned, but Raja's wound continues to hurt him, and by the dawn of the 2nd or 3rd day that you're in this village, it's clear that there's an infection that's taken hold. Raja's favoring the leg more than he has done before. This particular morning, where do we find you?
Jasmine talks to the town guard about maybe striking off on her own to find somebody who can help with Raja's wound. She doesn't really want to leave Raja behind, but she can't afford to wait that much longer, and Raja's in no shape to travel with her. She doesn't really want to travel on her own, but at this point, she can't go back, and the only way to go is forward, so she's considering leaving the town.
Bruce?
Bruce is sitting Indian style in front of his tree. He's got his hands out over his knees, and you can see his body kind of rise and fall with each breath as he just sits there and meditates.
Just as you're preparing your departure, Jasmine, you hear the soft clip-clopping of hooves approaching from the forest road. Your initial reaction is that it's Jafar or his men. But you soon realize that it's coming from the opposite direction. Where Jafar would be coming from the east, this noise is coming from the west. Within the clip-clopping of the hooves, you also hear the gentle roll of a wagon wheel as a small troop enters the town. On this particular day, Forestside is a fairly busy place with not caravans, because this isn't the trade center, but it's kind of a stopover for journeys through Mirkwood or around the area, and it's now started to pick up some additional patrons. So whereas the town itself is somewhere around 2 dozen total, you've now picked up another half dozen to a dozen strangers that have come in and out. And again, that gives you some pause, because they could be Jafar's men. But this particular caravan that enters is led by a man wearing a high-necked dark shirt or set of armor. Hard to tell at this point. And he's arguing with a woman, a fairly dark-skinned woman, riding side by side on horses as they enter. They have a caravan being pulled behind it, and they appear to be merchants, or it's hard to tell what their role is. It seems like perhaps they're not sure what their role is, and the argument that's happening between these two appears to be who's in command of this caravan. There are other people in the caravan as well. It's hard to see who's there. Probably a total of 4 of them. These 2 riders up front, and then a couple of people in the caravan behind it. Silas, can you describe your character, please?
My character is a ruggedly handsome, well-built male in his mid-30s, and he is exuding confidence as he turns to his companion and he says, "Look, I totally could have handled that by myself because it was my plan and it was going to work if you didn't have to butt in like that.
Right, because what we needed, says the woman, is a horde of orcs following us through Mirkwood. Right, that's what we needed.
I would have handled it.
Just like you handled the one before?
Yes, exactly like I handled the one before. And before that, too.
So this woman looks back to the caravan and says, "How's Barry doing?" And in the back, we see a tight caravan where one man is kind of tending to the wounds of another person who seems to be have sustained a wound to one or both of his knees. It's hard to tell. And what we see as the doctor is slowly kind of tending to this man. Doctor, what do you look like?
McCoy is a weathered older man, probably in his early 50s, wearing what seems to be almost kind of an out-of-place longer coat. It's kind of blue, and you can see that there's some faded, almost looking like cheap gold bands on it, tending to, as he mentioned, an injured man. Well, he's not going to walk again.
He's not going to walk again.
Look, it was a great plan. All it took was some collateral damage, all right? Why did Barry have to come anyway?
Archer, we are miles from home. Barry is broken. I am taking command. That's what Mallory would have wanted.
Oh, sure. You're an expert on what Mallory wanted.
So they pull into the town, and you see the two people on the horses dismount. This is an odd group. They're louder than they should be. Certainly, if they're trying to be quiet, that was failed right from the get-go. And you're surprised you didn't hear this some time ago when you first heard the horses on the road. People are kind of gathering around them, watching in amusement as they continue to argue.
Jasmine would run out when she hears the lady hollering at a doctor in the back of their caravan. And she would run up to the lady and say, I'm so sorry, excuse me. Did you say you have a doctor with you?
Hello.
You've described yourself, Tippett and Silas. Jasmine, can you please describe yourself?
So Jasmine is a young woman. She's fairly tan, dark-skinned. She's got long black hair held back by strips of cloth that she's pulled it back with. She is very, very slim. She's wearing really dusty riding clothes. She's got some riding boots, and it looks like she had some nicer clothing underneath her, like, riding jacket, but it's all just, like, ripped and torn and dirty. And she does not look particularly well-suited to the road.
Well, hello there.
Nope. Don't listen to him. Yes, we have a doctor. What do you need?
I wouldn't exactly call myself a doctor, but I am trained in field medicine, so if there's any... Lana, back off.
My friend is hurt, and I'm hoping that somebody can help patch him up.
Luckily for you, in my group of men here, we do have someone who is medically trained. So, where's your friend?
He's laying over by the fire right there.
You look over and you see some guards sitting by the fire. They appear to be guards. They're like militiamen, but they have... their armor doesn't match. Their swords don't match. This is a ragtag group of people that have built a settlement here. So these are certainly not like regional militia or guards. They're just volunteers. You see a handful of them sitting by the fire. None appear to be injured. Can I have a perception check? Difficulty's average.
All right. That's 4 successes and 2 threats.
You see a large tiger as well. An exotic cat. Maybe you've never seen one before. The threat is, I think you know something about this tiger, but it's probably not right.
Don't move. I'll handle this. Archer draws his sword and begins to advance on Raj. Don't worry, I'll protect you. Wait, this is your friend?
Yes.
You're friends with this ferocious animal?
Yes.
So this is the friend that needs help?
Yes.
All right, well, hey, Bones.
As Archer addresses Bones, you can hear Barry just screaming out as he's literally removing the lower half of his legs in this wagon.
Just as he yells it, you begin sawing through the bones.
Kind of busy right now. I'm cutting a man's legs off. This, of course, is the first time Barry's heard that they're going to cut his legs off.
Right, because you've numbed him, so he doesn't really realize it.
Bones, get over here.
Damn it, Sterling, I'm kind of busy right now.
With Barry, he's fine. He'll be fine. He's not going to walk again anyway. Hey, come here.
I'm only halfway through his first leg.
It's hard to get good help these days. I humbly apologize.
I think he can wait a little bit longer. It's been a few days.
Just then, Archer, you notice a peculiar man off a newly tread path into a small clearing where he seems to be chained to a big tree trunk. But the chains that hold this man down are massive. They're huge. And the man that's being chained to this tree is very tiny, very small. He's kind of sitting there. He's even got maybe some papers kind of scattered out before him, so he seems to just be reading something or potentially writing. Hard to tell.
Thank you for understanding, because obviously he's not gonna come right now. But wait, what's that guy's deal?
I'm not really sure. He's a conundrum.
Archer strides right up to him and like, hey, you! What's going on here? What's your deal?
I'm just here. I'm just here, being quiet, studying. That's all. Is there something I can help you with?
Studying what? What's this one horse town?
Well, I'm not studying horses. I'm studying plants. Yeah, I mean, if I'm just going through my notes, really.
What's with the chains?
Oh, the chains. So as I like to explain it, you usually chain up criminals to keep everybody else safe, and so I would like to keep everybody else safe, and so I've changed. I like to be in these chains.
Now you realize the chains that hold him, the manacles, are too big for him anyway. He can freely slip out. In fact, as he's kind of turning the pages, you see him do so. He pulls his arm out, he'll turn some pages in his notebook, and then he'll slide his arm back into these manacles that are too large for a man twice his size.
Those don't look terribly effective.
Well, the prayer is that they would be quite effective, but we haven't found out yet. And Bruce will take his hand out of the shackles and he'll offer it kind of in a handshake towards Archer. Bruce Banner.
I'm Sterling Archer. I'm kind of a big deal.
Are you?
The back of the caravan. Bones, I need a medicine check.
What's my check?
You're cutting off his leg in the back of a caravan. Let's call it hard and
What am I trying to do? Am I just trying to cut them off, or am I trying to cut them off and not get them infected?
You're the one who said you cut them off. Throw 2 black dice in there as well.
I got a knack for it.
For the listener, knack for it removes 2 black dice from a check. Bones's happens to be in medicine.
I had 1 failure.
There's blood everywhere. You have 1 leg removed. It's a mess. It just continues to be a mess until you kind of clean up this blood, bits of leg, pieces. Barry starts kicking and you cut into him several times, and this will remain a big mess for a long period of time. So Lana starts to pull out some of the weaponry that, like crossbows, that she doesn't want to be affected by, the seepage of blood as it kind of drips through the boards of this caravan. And you continue working for probably another hour or 2.
So kind of a big deal. And Bruce adjusts his spectacles and just kind of continues to ask, how are you kind of a big deal?
Oh, so you haven't heard of the Ranger Resistance Front?
The what?
The Ranger Resistance Front.
The Ranger Resistance Front.
People didn't like Hidden Dagger for some reason.
Well, it sounds evil.
It sounds awesome.
Right. So I notice you're loud. Could I just really appreciate my quiet time, and if I could just get back to my study, that'd be great.
At this point, Jasmine walks up with 2 plates of food and a cup of cider in each arm.
For me? You shouldn't have.
No, it's not for you.
Oh.
You can go buy your own, though.
Archer's slightly taken aback, a little bit offended. All right, maybe I will.
It's pretty good.
Well, I'll leave you with your chains and whatever. Archer just walks away. He's looking. Oh, he reads the name. Hop and barley. Ugh, I hope they've got something stronger. And he just walks away.
It was nice to meet you.
So by the time Bones is done with his impromptu surgery, Archer is several drinks in, and Jasmine and Bruce have kind of continued their chat. So just now, we see Bones as he steps out from the caravan, and as the, it's got a little like hinged door in the back, and as he kind of pulls that thing open, it just kind of starts like dripping this blood that's kind of just settled up against the edge there, and he steps down from the caravan just covered in it, right? Because he's sitting back there. There's no way to get away from it. Maybe peeling off some like riding gloves that have just now become useless and tossing them aside, and he enters. Now, Bones, do you see this fairly small village? Lana, as always, has gone to work. She starts dealing with the merchants or the blacksmiths, things like that, and starts playing up the front of being a merchant caravan. You assume Archer is doing his part of the job to get some information about the movement of some of the orcs, goblins, spiders, whatever it is that might be moving against the people here. But there are no signs of evil. Not yet. Jasmine, a perception check. It's easy.
1 success and 1 threat.
You see a small red bird perched within the trees. The threat is, you have no idea how long it's been there.
Jasmine curses to herself, and she runs off to see if she can find that doctor.
Bones, where do you head right after surgery?
Bones immediately heads to the bar where he assumes he would find Archer. He's pretty upset about having to cut a man's legs off today.
Yeah. And as you walk away, you hear Barry as he's kind of in and out of this kind of medically induced sleep. And he says, "Oh, sure, yeah, leave me alone behind in the caravan, bleeding out my legs. Who am I going to talk to? Guess I'll just talk to me. How you doing, other Barry?" "Doing good, Barry." You walk into the inn. It's lively because there's actually a lot of people that have been kind of passing through today, and it's a big room with kind of a soft yellow glow and the smoke of pipe tobacco that is almost acrid now because of how many people are smoking a different mix of tobaccos. And you see Archer doing something.
Archer is sitting at the bar. He has his arm around the barmaid, who clearly not into him. At this point, he's several drinks in, and he's not really aware that she's just barely tolerating him at this point. He's like, "That's what I said. Ranger Resistance Front. You don't believe? Hey, Bones, come here. Tell her that we're with the Resistance."
The Resistance group that he's speaking of is a highly secretive group that should probably not be discussed in open public because of the work that you do.
Just because your mother promoted you above me doesn't mean that you should... I don't think this is wise that you're talking about this here. And he just slams the pair of Barry's boots on the countertop.
Do they still have feet in them?
They do not still have feet in them.
But they are covered in his blood.
Those look like they need a little bit of work. Barmaid, can you clean those off for him? He looks like he's having a little bit of trouble there.
She looks at Archer. She looks at Bones. She looks back at Archer. She says, "Fine." And as she's walking away, she kind of leans into Bones and says, "Thank you." And now leaves Archer's side to do this other job.
That's the only useful thing he's got below the waist now. I hope you know that. He'll never walk again because of your carelessness.
Well, I wouldn't exactly call it carelessness. I mean, calculated risk. I mean, it's Barry.
You sent him into the cave with a torch. What would you think they wouldn't see him?
He was the diversion, okay? Obviously, I was going to rescue him. Probably.
At this point, Jasmine walks up. Excuse me, and she looks at the person with Archer, who she hasn't met yet.
Yeah.
He's
covered in blood still, like it's staining a lot of his...
That's what clued her in that it might be the doctor. Excuse me, are you the doctor in this group?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
I'm wondering if you can help me with my tiger. He's injured.
I'm not familiar. What's a tiger?
Really big cat.
Damn it, lady, I'm a doctor, not a veterinarian.
Hey, don't you curse in front of a lady, okay?
Bones just sighs, looks at himself covered in blood. Why not today? Sure, I'll look at your cat.
I would really appreciate it, even if you can just help bandage him up. But I think his wound is infected.
All right, let's... Archer, you just keep doing what you're doing.
Archer turns, looks around for the lady that was cleaning the boots. Doesn't find her, but he's just kind of, he at this point, he's over the edge, and he just starts chatting up a support beam that someone had hung a cloak on.
No, it's
a woman's hat.
It's carved decoratively to look like a lady.
Yeah,
and he's just hanging against it. And someone did hang their cloak on the other side, so it's convincing for Archer.
Yeah, and he just starts chatting up like, oh, hello. Well, hello there, Sterling Archer. Oh, the silent type. All right.
Out in the main gathering area around the bonfire, you see this large tiger, which is a big orange striped cat. Huge, because what you were expecting from large cat was maybe the size of a dog, and instead it's maybe twice that big. So Raja's big. When you leave the inn, and this might not matter to Bones or to Bruce, but Jasmine, you hear Iago. He's cawing loudly, almost as loud as he can. He's flying from limb to limb and making a ton of noise that would be very easy to hear for anyone surrounding or approaching the village.
Jasmine kind of goes into a state of panic.
I told you I would look at it.
No, I know. I don't know if I can stay here though. If you can bring him back to Bruce, Raja, go by Bruce. I need to hide. I'm not safe here.
Well, not with a giant cat around like that.
The cat is. I'm safest with the cat, but I have to go. And she actually is going to run off.
Raja's conflicted because Raja gets up to go towards Bruce, but when Jasmine runs off in apparently fear, Raja looks back. So give me a discipline from Raja. Success means he does what you tell him. Failure means he's just going to follow you, and it's average.
What does Bones know about the mission that we're on?
You are an information gathering group at this point. So you operate out of the undercity of Osgiliath. So Osgiliath is in ruins, but the sewers and the undercity there, this kind of catacombs that have been built underneath, is where you operate from. Which, by the way, can you give me a lore roll, please?
Me?
Yeah.
Against?
Average.
Nada.
What you may assume is this person you're talking to is an Easterling, but you otherwise have no idea what the significance of this particular individual is. Maybe that is one.
Nope, 1 advantage.
So Raja fails his discipline. He turns about halfway towards Bruce, sees Jasmine run off, and instead heads towards Jasmine instead. And now you can see, Bones, you can see that there is something wrong with this cat's leg. He's limping fairly heavily on it.
Jasmine would probably actually run back towards Bruce herself as well. She'd just run further because she was going to run into the forest, and she's looking for like a hiding place, basically.
That's fine. So she disappears into the forest.
Can she stealth to try and lose Iago when she does?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead and give me that roll. It's hard, but Iago has 1 proficiency die as well, so it's going to be 2 purple and 1 red. Here, take my 1 story point.
No, stop. Upgrading it again?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So 2 red, 1 purple.
2 red, 1 purple.
2 successes, 5 threat.
Great. So you do somehow, even though Iago is fairly perceptive and watching you do end up slipping out of his vision. But 5 threat.
I get fucking lost.
You trip and punch Bruce in the face.
I think Fuck. No. And then when you're getting up, Raja claws him. And then a bomb goes off. The threat. Iago does see your general direction towards the woods. So there's a couple of aspects of this. One is he sees kind of the direction you were running before he lost you. You'll have a difficult time finding a hiding spot but he perches now above the tree that Bruce is attached to. So when a group of, strangely enough, orcs walk into the city, they first see Iago where Bruce is. These orcs, most of them in this group, and there are, maybe a dozen or so, are just disgusting looking. These kind of decrepit, crouched creatures that almost walk, occasionally brushing their hands on the ground as they walk because their posture is so bad. But the one in front appears to be a little bit more put together. So these are not Uruk-hai, so they are not big, heavy orcs. They are small, kind of disgusting looking creatures. Not quite hobbit size, somewhere between hobbit and human. But when they enter, the three men at the campsite pull swords, and all of the orcs start to spread out, and they're looking around. They're not aggressive yet, but one of the guards approaches, and some of the orcs kind of surround them and pull out their own weapons. And after a brief exchange, this kind of aggressive argument, the militants kind of step back, almost stand down. Archer, you don't really see this because you're in the inn, but you hear some commotion. Bones, I think you see most of this happen, and Bruce, your heart rate begins to climb. Jasmine, you're far enough into the forest that you're not immediately perceptible, but you can see what's going on, and these orcs start to spread out among the settlement. If this is a group coming after Jasmine, should be Easterlings. It's strange that it's orcs. Easterlings, and even Jasmine, you know this, do not typically work with orcs. So whether these are a mercenary group or whether this was part of the alliance that Jafar was talking about is unclear to you, but very strange. And also very terrifying because orcs have no business other than violence.
Bruce is kind of shaking his head. He's looking around nervously. He's continuing to do his deep breathing exercises, and then he just kind of nods to himself and starts to gather his things and put them in his pack that he has next to the tree.
Yeah, and as you do and kind of hurriedly put your stuff back together, the orc that's kind of leading this group sees Iago above your tree, and he walks towards Iago. Iago is this red bird that looks like kind of half molted and too thin in places, and its head kind of moves inaccurately, like it kind of doesn't have the strength in its neck to kind of keep its head always still, so it kind of bobs around here and there. Looks like it shouldn't be alive, but is. And the orc walks up, looks at this red bird, looks down at you, and says, "Tell me where she is."
I don't have anything for you. I don't have any goods. I don't have anything that you would like to take from me. I just want to.
We're looking for a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know something?
Iago caws. He grabs you by the scruff of the neck. He lifts you up. Your chains are kind of falling off of you weakly.
Please don't do that. Please put me down.
I'll put you down when I have my answers.
Meanwhile, Archer has been chatting up this post for a little while. He's beginning to get a little bit flustered because usually his charm works at some...
It either works or it doesn't.
It either works or it doesn't, but this kind of neutral expression is like, oh, so, all right, fine. The silent treatment. I can't even... What could I do to prove to you that I'm... And he starts wildly gesturing around that I'm worth your time. And he sees the orcs. He sees the orcs.
Yeah, and he also sees other people in the inn because they're gathered around the windows and they're looking, and it's almost like the air of this room has changed.
He sees the orcs and he goes, "Oh, hold on a minute, duty calls." And then he pulls out his crossbow, his little hand crossbow from inside of his cloak, and cocks it back, and then confidently strides towards the door. And he says, not to worry, Ranger Resistance front."
You open the door and you can see that these orcs are sniffing around and kind of searching for things. They're kind of tearing some things apart, looking through the blacksmith shop and kind of pulling the horseshoes off the wall, just kind of tearing stuff up in general muckery, but also appear to be searching for something or someone. One of them kind of peeks into the caravan, and you hear Barry kind of talking to it, but he's kind of in and out of consciousness as well. And you see Bones is there as well, kind of surveying the scene. Off to your, what would be your left from exiting the inn, you can see that maybe a more put together or a more well-armed orc is now holding Bruce, the guy who was attached to a tree, up against that tree. The militants, 3 in the center, they've kind of stood down. They've all got their swords drawn, but their tips are to the ground now, and they're kind of just letting things be.
Archer, he wants to look around and see if he can see Lana, see if she's around.
Yeah, give me a perception check. It's average.
1 success and 2 threat.
Yeah, you see Lana. She is kind of half obscured by some foliage as she's ducked into the forest when this first started. And you can see she has now pulled out her very particular brand of hand crossbows as well. And she's looking at you, so when you make eye contact with her, she does a motion to you, a couple of hand motions to indicate what she wants you to do. In typical Archer fashion, and also because you're drunk, you either ignore them or don't really know what she's trying to say anyway.
Yeah, Archer sees the hand. Yeah, he sees the hand signals. He kind of awkwardly waves at her and just wild sort of gestures, probably drawing way too much attention to her. It's very obvious that he's signaling in that direction.
In fact, a couple of them look over that way.
Then, without any warning, he charges at the orc that is holding Bruce and fires his crossbow.
Yes! So we're changing something in Season 2, which is that we're doing combat off of mic. The reason for that is because that will make it easier and hopefully more enjoyable to listen to than a bunch of roles that don't progress the story very much. So what we're going to do is we're going to play out combat, and then we are going to come back and we're going to narrate what that looked like. So the one aspect of trust we need from the listeners is that you trust everything that we are going to narrate is how the dice fell. So we're going to attempt very hard to make it as accurate as possible. So no, we're not fudging dice here. It is simply so that we can better hear how combat resolved. So this is what happened.
Archer says, "Hey, ugly," and shoots several bolts at the chieftain, striking him in the shoulder, causing him to drop Bruce and knocking him off balance.
Yeah, he takes the arrows right in the shoulder and turns and kind of growls. And he pulls from his pack a spear and kind of sidelong throws it around the tree towards Archer. It strikes Archer in the meat of his thigh and kind of digs in deep, and then doesn't have enough to actually hold on its own and falls out, but causing this kind of viscous wound that starts bleeding.
Gah! You'll pay for that!
Bruce falls to the ground. He kind of catches himself with his elbows in the dirt, and he's just trying to do his deep breathing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is all fine. It's calm. Be calm. Be calm. It's fine. You're okay.
Bones pulls a riding blanket over Barry. Be quiet. Draws his mace and his shield.
The orc group in the center of the camp see Archer shooting at their leader, charge forward and start clawing, scratching, and biting. The other group on the other side of the settlement starts tearing into the blacksmith's pavilion, start pulling down racks of things that are scattering and clanking all about, tipping an anvil here and there, and the townsfolk begin to scatter in fear.
Jasmine watches what's going on with fear and a tinge of horror, but she stays hidden because she can't leave Raja behind and she can't step out from hiding.
A couple of arrows come flying out of the forest from the direction where Archer, you had seen Lana earlier. She's shooting at the orcs that are surrounding you, but they miss. They thud into the side of the building, and one hits the sign above the door, and it kind of just swings back and forth creakily as this arrow now embedded in it.
Archer, as the orcs are kind of clawing and biting, he just does a really quick, kind of spreads his arms wide, does a quick general shove, disengaging himself from this group. He jumps backward and fires with his crossbow, hitting one straight between the eyes and killing it.
And his movement's actually taken him closer now to the orc chief, who moves into engaged with Archer, pulls out an axe, and swings his axe towards Archer.
Bones takes off from the caravan, mace drawn. He swings, hits one of the orcs on the back of the head, and you hear his skull crush.
After Bruce sees the orc chief turn towards Archer, he kind of gathers himself. He looks around frantically, pulls his backpack, and runs up behind the orc chief and just throws the backpack straps over the orc chief's axe, and then just takes off into the forest.
It tangles the orc chief's weapon enough that it's gonna cause him some trouble in the future. One of the orcs, the only remaining orc that attacked Archer, now turns to square up with Bones, jumps on top of a crate nearby and swings, missing Bones, who deflects it with his mace. The other group, now having torn apart the blacksmith's pavilion, moves to your caravan, the one where Barry still is, and two of them jump on top of the horses and start stabbing and biting at the horses, while the other one jumps into the caravan and starts tearing stuff up therein.
Raja lets out a very, very low growl, and Jasmine puts her hand on him, quieting him so that they can keep hiding.
A couple more shots come out at that orc, the one remaining that's squaring off against Bones. These shots come from the bush where Lana is, but they miss once again.
Archer then takes advantage of the encumbrance of the orc chief to dodge underneath this swinging axe and does a tactical roll away, stands up and then fires several shots, missing him, but luckily enough snags the bag that was attached to the axe. It jerks the axe from his hand and pins it into the tree behind him, and now the axe is he's completely disarmed.
Yeah, and he ignores it. He leaves it there, and he moves in to engage with you once again. He's now squaring up just with his fists. Although he still has a throwing spear, he's now just punching at you. And he calls out to the other orcs,
"Leave this lot to me. I've got them."
Bones squared off with the orc now standing over him on a crate. Swings out, hits him in the body, but fails to make much of it.
Yeah, the orcs are sturdier than you think, so when you hit him, it does nothing.
Bruce runs off into the woods, just nervously trying to console himself. You're a peaceful stream. Everything's okay. Keep on going. Everything's all right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And as he keeps on running, he starts to think about Jasmine and trying to run towards where he saw her run into the woods, but unfortunately gets his foot caught on a root and just face plants into the ground.
One of the orcs, the one that's standing on the box and looking down at Bones, jumps off of the box and swings at Bones, and he gets a good, solid hit on you, and he kind of latches on and scratches and bites in. Although you have your shield and you bring it up to try to defend yourself, he's still reaching in, he's still grabbing and trying to take you down. Meanwhile, the orcs that are in your caravan, two of them now having disengaged the horses from the caravan, start pulling it off back maybe towards the east, down the old forest road, and the other one jumps out the back of the caravan and runs into the inn, and he starts to make general mischief there, probably trying to grab one of the townsfolk.
Jasmine just runs her fingers through Raja's hair reassuringly, but continues to hide.
A couple more shots come out from the forest, and that one remaining orc, the one that's now attached to Bones and kind of grabbing onto his shield, takes one arrow right through the head, and it falls limp on your shield and then topples off onto the floor.
Archer then takes another step back to gain cover behind a tree and fires again on the orc chieftain. And this actually, he originally misjudged the shot and it goes low, but it pierces his Achilles tendon, and you can actually hear that snap up into his leg. This is going to be very difficult for this orc to maneuver anymore, and his agility is just shot at this point.
He grabs a spear because he can't move anymore, and he's trying to hit you, although you've now disengaged from him. So he takes his last remaining spear and he throws it at you once again. And while it kind of flies wide over your shoulder, in the time it takes you to look at the spear and kind of dodge out of the way of it, the orc has now jumped backwards through the window and into the inn, disappearing from your view.
Bones hears the horses screaming and watches as the orcs start pulling the cart away with Barry in tow. Yells out, "Lana, save Barry!" Charges into the bar where he can hear the screams of the helpless townsfolk.
You see the orc that's jumped in through the window to your left, who's now kind of grabbing at a woman and pulling her towards the window, and this new adversary, the one that Archer has been fighting, has jumped in through the window now too.
Archer sees that he's crashed through the window, but he has a bone to pick with this orc. He's going down, so he runs up right up to the windowsill, aims once again through directly at fires of the orc chief, hitting him several times in the back and piercing his kidney. He's done some real damage at this point.
The one orc that's jumped into the building from the other side has now grabbed this woman, and he takes her out of a window. He kind of back rolls over the windowsill and back outside, pulling this woman with him and now running her off into the forest. You can hear her screams as she is pulled off into the forest. And you now realize that they don't know what Jasmine looks like. They're just trying to grab whoever they can and hope that they get Jasmine.
Bones, knowing that he's not a fighter, knowing that he's not a match for this orc that's been engaged with Archer, knows that he needs to tie him up nonetheless, so he engages with him, but fails to land a hit.
Bruce lays back. He tries to look around to see if he can determine where Jasmine is headed off to, but ultimately he just gets his foot free from the roots and kind of rolls over to hide, and then he closes his eye and puts his head back.
The orc chief, now squaring up with Bones, the only two people left in this tavern, moves towards him, swings. He fails his attack and then kind of takes a back roll over one of the tables and knocks all of the mugs and the bowls aside onto the floor, topples the table, and then moves towards the window. Turns to try to fast vault out of the window.
So Archer deftly leaps through the window, kind of launching himself off the sill. He actually takes the moment to kind of step out, and so mid-air, with a flourish, he pops the orc chieftain 2 more times with just in quick succession. Pop, pop, from his crossbow.
Yeah, the strike, this final bolt, because now the orc's got so many in him, lurches him backwards. His head hits the window above him, and he topples back to the ground of the inn, dead or unconscious, otherwise out of the fight.
Archer wants to interrogate, see if the chief is still alive, and he's going to try to beat some information out of this guy.
So this guy's bleeding out of a lot of the arrow holes that you put into him. Without medical treatment, he's going to bleed out quite quickly. So if Bones would like to try to stabilize him, he certainly can.
Hey, make sure this guy's alive long enough to talk.
Bones walks to the doorway, looks out and says, "I'll get some supplies from the wagon." Oh, wait, we don't have a wagon.
Make it work.
Once Jasmine hears the fighting die down, she will come out from hiding in the forest.
Yeah, she's actually pretty close to Bruce. Where Bruce was searching for her, but kind of walk the other way in the forest. You're not too far off. Had you looked the other way, you would have seen them.
Bones goes over to stabilize the orc, pretty much just putting tourniquets on his limbs and just stemming the blood flow to any of his extremity.
Give me a medicine check, but because you don't have a kit, throw a setback die in there.
Yeah, it's not even...
So 3 success, 2 threat.
Okay, the 2 threat is that when you stabilize him, he also fairly quickly comes to and is struggling against it. So now you've kind of started to bandage up his legs, and even before you're done, his eyes snap open, and he reaches out and he's grabbing at maybe if there's any knives nearby that have fallen off tables or even like a chair leg, and he's trying to swing in at you, and it requires everyone's effort to kind of pile on and keep him down.
I just needed you to stabilize him. I didn't want him to be active. God. Archer strides forward, puts his stamps pretty heavily right in the chest of the orc chieftain, and he goes, "Who sent you? What are you doing here?"
Where is the girl?
Girl?
Jasmine.
I'm the one asking the questions here. You're the one giving answers, and he smacks him across the mouth.
He's made of some stern stuff, but he's just an orc, and when you hit him, he loses a tooth, and some blood and spittle go flying off to the side, and he says,
I won't talk to you.
Oh,
Give me what I'm looking for.
Oh, really? He then takes his crossbow, cocks it back, and shoots him in the knee.
You shoot him in the knee.
I'll kill you.
Oh.
I'll kill all of you. When he looks around, and now he's reaching for things, and he's trying to grab at stuff, and I'll take a coercion to try to get him to talk. This is against his discipline. It's going to be 2 red. And throw a setback die in, because he's very determined.
He's very determined
to not talk, and he's an orc.
Okay. That would be 4 successes and a threat.
So you shoot him in the leg, and he calls out,
I want the girl for Jafar.
Who's Jafar?
You see now emblazoned on his armor, which you didn't notice before, is the red snake symbol of Jafar.
Archer looks at it and goes, Why does he wonder? Why is Jasmine so important?
At this point, he presses himself almost to his feet, and everyone's trying to stop him. He charges out at you, and you realize now you will get no further answers from him. What you've gotten is all he'll give, and now he is just trying to attack.
Archer has no patience for this. Crossbow right in the eyeball. We're done with him. He was useless anyway.
So when he gets up to attack you, you sidestep out of the way, which kind of trips him. He turns to swing at you, so now you're facing him as he's falling backwards, and put one arrow into his head.
At this point, Jasmine turns the corner into the doorway.
Just to see an arrow hit him, take him out.
Archer sees that she notices this, and so he doesn't even look back behind him. He just hears the thud, kind of gives a self-satisfied smirk, and then strides as suavely as possible in his wounded state towards Jasmine and says, "How's that for protection?"
Raja moves in to the doorway around Jasmine, steps between the two of you, and growls.
"Hey, easy there, kitty. Nice kitty. All right, you."
Easy, Raja. Down. I thank you for fending them off.
Anytime. For you, anything.
How about that doctor for Raja?
Of course. Bones. Take care of the cat.
It's a tiger.
This is the guy who has no respect for anyone I'm healing today.
I do, if it's any help.
Odds are Archer's gonna have his knees crushed or shoot him in the back of the head. 2 success, 1 advantage.
So you see that there is perhaps a fracture, and it has become infected. So you kind of set that fracture. It's not bad. It's just a fracture in the bone, but it hasn't displaced the bone at all. And kind of wrap it up, apply some healing herb as well, which, Bruce, I think you're probably fairly interested in. But you have now removed Raja's critical injury. Raja will take a couple of days just to recover from it, but we'll be just fine.
He's tough. Cat should be fine.
So, Jasmine, this orc creep, he said he was looking for you. Why? Who's Jafar? Why are you so important?
Jafar is an advisor for my father. My father is the Sultan of Erebor. I'm Princess Jasmine. And she pulls back her hood to show a headband with a bunch of jewels set in it.
Thank you for listening. If you like the show, please share us with your friends. One of the best ways that we can grow the show is through word of mouth. Another great way to support the show is through ratings and reviews. Every 5-star rating and review that we receive helps others to find the show. If you'd like to connect with us, you can shoot us an email at meltingplotpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter @plotmelting. All music was written and produced by Zachary James Kolkman. Sound design by Jeff Henders and Zachary James Kolkman. Jasmine from Aladdin was played by Rachel Kamstra. Bruce Banner was played by Zachary James Kolkman. Sterling Archer was played by Silas Sheffer. Leonard Bones McCoy was played by Tippett. And I am your host, Jeff Henders. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.